Change with change before change changes you. Greetings, beautiful soul, and welcome to my channel, The Optimist Hub. My name is Yanga, and today's video, let's talk a bit about change. Let's talk specifically about overcoming the fear of change. So I was looking through my book earlier on, and I came across one of the notes that I'd taken, especially from one of my coaching classes that I did last year when I was pursuing my certificate in transformation life coaching. But yeah, so I just thought, let me come on here and share those with you. I will be looking down from time to time, just because I will be referring to my notes. But yeah, really, I think one thing that we all know is that change is one of those things that are inevitable. It is an inevitable cycle that is meant to happen and that will happen. In fact, change imposes itself because it is a natural state of the process of things becoming, right? It is a natural process. It is something that is meant to happen. And as something that is known to be a constant in life, it is sure one thing that is scary, right? Change can be scary because it is an element of uncertainty. And what drives change to be the scary thing really is the fear of the unknown, right? It is the fear of what is waiting for me on the other side if I actually allow this process to happen. But that's the thing, right? And I think there's a thin line between growth and change, even though they're both have like a positive relationship, in the sense that when one grows, they're bound to change, right? And so one thing about growth is that it is something that you need to seek. It is something that you need to want. It is something that you need to go after and lean into as well. Whereas change is something that imposes itself. It has to happen, right? And so there is a cycle of change, which really, like I said, because change is this thing that is scary, it is met with a lot of resistance, right? And we're going to go through the cycle of resistance that change goes through. So one is the discontentment, right? You will get to a point where you are discontent about something. That is a big telltale sign that it is now time for change, right? It is when you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not content anymore. Then the second step is you reaching the breaking point, right? The breaking point is the burnout, it is the exhaustion, it is the tiredness, it is the irritability that you experience. You will get to a point where you are just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And so that again is a big sign that it is time for change. Then the third step is decision. The decision to change, the decision to now say, I am done with this. I no longer want to be a part of this. I no longer want to feel the certain way. I now want to change. I want to allow the process of change to take place. I want to pivot and explore other avenues. And so that decision empowers you. And as I always say, life is a series of choices, right? It is a series of choices. Your superpower lies in your choices. I think in my previous video, I spoke about how you are literally one decision away from a different version of your life. And so you are literally one decision away from changing your current situation, your current circumstances, your current, state of being that you may not necessarily feel like is in alignment with who you truly are meant to be and what you are truly meant to do. And so, once we take that leap of faith and say, I decide now, this very moment, that I'm going to pursue this one thing that I've always wanted to do and to be, we are now met with fear, right? So that is the next stage or step, is fear. The fear of the unknown. This is the fear of you being uncomfortable with the idea of change because you are so familiar with your current situation. You are so familiar with your current environment, right? You are so used to the uncomfortability of that environment that it has become your comfort zone. That now you're met with the fear of, I don't know what's waiting for me on the other side. The fear of, I'm afraid of my greatness, of touching my potential, of living my truth. I'm afraid of becoming great. I'm afraid of leaning into my highest potential. I am afraid that I am going to do and to be greater than I know myself to be. That's the fear. I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. But mostly people are afraid of success. And so what happens is you start forgetting. So that's the next step or the next stage, amnesia. You now forget the pain. You forget the uncomfortability of the comfort zone, because now one thing about change as well, what I imagine is, say you are in this circle or box, right? This comfort zone, and you're growing within this box until it gets to a point where you can't fit in anymore. You can't. You now need to step out of this comfort zone or this comfort box or this comfort circle. You need to now break free from this comfort zone in order to allow yourself to grow, to evolve, and most importantly, for the process of change to take place. And so we forget the pain, right? And we perceive the situation better than the change. We now say, oh, I think it's not that bad after all. I don't think it's that bad. I'm probably making it look like or seem like or feel like it's as bad as I'm, whatever. We start invalidating the pain. We start invalidating the breaking point. We start invalidating the exhaustion, the burnouts. We start invalidating the thing that made us feel so uncomfortable because we are afraid of change, right? And then the last step encapsulates the cycle of resistance to change is backtracking, where one now decides, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to change because I'm afraid. And so what happens is when you backtrack and you go back to the state of unfulfillment, you will find yourself trapped in a constant loop of breaking points, of discontent. In fact, the cycle will repeat itself because it ends at the point where you are now making the decision to, I'm going to change, I'm going to make a move. And then once you again encounter the fear, then you want to backtrack and suddenly forget about the pain. So you will always be entrapped in the cycle of discontentment, in a constant loop of breaking points, in a constant loop of making the decision to change, and then allowing the fear to dictate how we do things, allowing the fear to hinder us from actually proceeding forward. And then we forget again. So it's a cycle that will never end, right? We see the greener pasture, but we are afraid to tread on it. We are afraid. And that really is the core. That is the genesis. That is really the where the resistance of change stems from, is the fear, right? You have to want it. You have to want to grow. No one is going to come and give you a jar of change and say, there you go, you need to work on it. No one is going to come and give you growth stimulants and say, there you go, here's a packet filled with your entire future and possibilities, and your greatness is in there. You need to do the work, right? Do not allow your fear to be bigger than you. You are bigger than your fear. Do not allow your fear to be bigger than you. Do not resist change. Change is something that needs to take place. It has to take place. Surrender to the process of change. Surrender to the process of becoming and unbecoming. Let go and let God. Allow yourself to change. You literally have the power, and it all lies in the choices and decisions that you make. So choosing not to make that decision, choosing to not do it regardless of the fear, is still choosing the situation. And I think it is time that we choose ourselves beyond the fear. Do it scared. Along the way, the fear will fall off. And with that said, beautiful soul, may goodness and grace lead you to greater heights of success. Namaste.